No subscription, no login, no paywall. Tubi is completely free, and buried in its library are sci-fi films that people are paying to watch on other platforms right now. Here are 10 you will not believe cost you absolutely nothing. Let's talk about what actually happens when you open a streaming app. You scroll, you browse, you read descriptions that all sound the same, and 20 minutes later, you give up and rewatch something you have already seen 3 times. That is the modern streaming experience, and most of us have just accepted it. But here's the thing about Tubi. Nobody talks about it the way they talk about Netflix or HBO. It does not have a prestige marketing campaign or a billion-dollar original series anchoring its identity. What it does have is an enormous library, and hidden inside that library, completely free to anyone with an internet connection, are some of the most original and inventive science fiction movies ever made. Not filler, not straight-to-streaming throwaways. Actual films with real craft behind them. Films that asked hard questions, took real risks, and in some cases changed what people thought science fiction could be. So today we are going through 10 of them, starting at number 10, working down to number 1. And by the time we get there, I think you are going to have a very different opinion of what the word free actually means. We are starting at number 10 with something that will tell you immediately whether this list is for you.
Tubi is proud to be free for all the first responders who risk their lives to keep us safe. The teachers, illuminating the minds of our children.
Tank Girl from 1995 is a post-apocalyptic comic book adaptation starring Lori Petty as a woman who lives in a tank and fights a corporation controlling the world's water supply. It is loud, it is chaotic, it mixes live action with animated sequences from the original Jamie Hewlett comics. It has a kangaroo-human hybrid military unit and a soundtrack that jumps between punk and jazz without asking permission.
It's the year 2033. There's no law.
This is not a polished film. It was never trying to be. What it is, though, is a completely singular piece of vision that refuses to resemble anything else. At a time when Hollywood was still figuring out what to do with female-led action movies, Tank Girl just charged through the wall and did not look back. It has the energy of something made by people who had nothing to lose. Some films age into cult status. Tank Girl was born there. Number 9 is Pandorum. 2 crew members wake inside a massive spacecraft with no memory of who they are or how long they have been asleep. The ship is dark, damaged, and something is moving through the corridors that they cannot explain. What follows is a deep space horror thriller that understands exactly what makes that environment frightening. You cannot open a window. You cannot call for help. The universe outside is so vast and indifferent that the only world that exists is the one inside those walls. Pandorum does something very few space horror films attempt, which is to take the psychological cost of long-haul space travel seriously. There is a condition in the film, the Pandorum of the title, a paranoid psychosis that sets in when the human mind is isolated for too long in deep space. The film keeps you uncertain about what is real and what is a symptom. It is tense, atmospheric, and commits fully to its premise all the way to the final scene. At number 8, we have Sphere. A team of scientists, Dustin Hoffman, Sharon Stone, and Samuel L. Jackson, is sent to the ocean floor to investigate a spacecraft that has been sitting there for 300 years. Inside, they find something they cannot explain, a perfect golden sphere, the size of a house with no seams and no entrance. And then the sphere opens. This is a Michael Crichton adaptation, and like all the best Crichton stories, it is less interested in the alien object than in what the object does to the people studying it. The ocean floor setting is genuinely claustrophobic. The team is trapped far below the surface, completely cut off. And as strange things begin to happen, visions, messages, manifestations, the film becomes less about science and more about the fragility of the human mind when confronted with something it cannot categorize. It has been unfairly forgotten and absolutely deserves a second look. Number 7 is Predestination, and I am going to be careful about how I describe this one. Ethan Hawke plays a temporal agent, a time-traveling law enforcement officer, whose final mission sends him to 1970s, New York, where he meets a stranger in a bar who begins to tell him a story. And the story this stranger tells is one of the most intricate, carefully constructed things science fiction cinema has produced in the last 20 years. This is a film built around a paradox, the kind that, once you see how it works, you will immediately want to explain to the next person you talk to. It asks what it means for something to have a beginning when every beginning you find turns out to have something behind it. Ethan Hawke is extraordinary. The screenplay is airtight, and the ending lands with the quiet devastation that only the very best twist films manage to pull off. If you have not seen Predestination, stop after this video and watch it. At number 6, we have Moon. Sam Rockwell plays Sam Bell, a man working alone on a lunar mining base for almost 3 years. His contract is nearly up. He is going home soon. And then something happens near one of the mining rigs, and Sam Bell wakes up in the medical bay, and nothing feels quite right anymore. Moon is the kind of science fiction that used to get made much more often than it does now. It is quiet. It takes its time. It is more interested in what isolation actually feels like than in spectacle or action. Duncan Jones directed it on a small budget, and the restraint in every frame is remarkable. Sam Rockwell carries almost the entire film by himself, in every possible sense, and he gives a performance of such warmth and detail that it becomes genuinely emotional in ways you do not expect from a story set on the moon. A masterpiece of small-scale science fiction. Number 5 is Colossal, and I promise you the premise sounds stranger than the film actually feels. Anne Hathaway plays Gloria, a directionless woman who moves back to her hometown after a breakup and discovers, through a very specific chain of events, that she is somehow psychically connected to a giant monster appearing in Seoul, South Korea. When she is in a certain place at a certain time, she controls it. Her movements become its movements. Her accidents become catastrophes on the other side of the world. What Nacho Vigalondo has built here is a film that uses the kaiju genre as a metaphor for something deeply personal. It is about the damage people do to each other without understanding the scale of it, about control, self-destruction, and the kind of person who uses chaos to avoid accountability. Anne Hathaway is wonderful in it, and the film earns every tonal shift, moving between funny and uncomfortable and genuinely frightening without losing its grip on what it is actually about. At number 4, Event Horizon. A rescue crew is sent to investigate a deep space research vessel that disappeared 7 years earlier near Neptune. The ship was testing a gravity drive designed to fold space and allow instantaneous travel between distant points. The ship has now returned. The original crew has not. And when the rescue team boards it, they begin to understand why. This film occupies a rare space at the intersection of science fiction and horror. It takes faster-than-light travel seriously enough to ask a question very few films have dared. If you punch a hole through the fabric of space, where does it lead? Event Horizon answers in a way that is genuinely disturbing. Paul W.S. Anderson made something here that frightened people in 1997 and has lost none of its power. It is a film with an idea at its core that truly unsettles, and those are rarer than they look. Number 3 is The Man from Earth, and it might be the most unusual entry on this list. A university professor is having a farewell gathering with his colleagues. They are in his living room. And somewhere in the middle of the evening, he tells them something. He tells them that he is 14,000 years old, born in the Paleolithic era. That something in his biology stopped aging when he reached his early 30s, and that he has been living quietly through the entirety of recorded human history. What follows is a film made entirely of conversation. No visual effects, no action sequences. One room, a group of people, and an idea that keeps unfolding. Jerome Bixby wrote the screenplay over the course of his life and finished it on his deathbed. That fact gives the whole thing a profound weight, because he is writing about what it would mean to watch everything you know disappear over and over again for thousands of years. The Man from Earth is proof that you do not need a single special effect to make someone feel the full size of time. At number 2, Time Crimes, a Spanish-language film also directed by Nacho Vigalondo, in which a man named Hector makes a series of small, seemingly innocent decisions that pull him deeper into a time loop he cannot escape. The less you know going in, the better. What I will say is that this film is constructed with the precision of a watch. Every scene exists for a reason. Every detail you notice in the first 20 minutes will matter by the end. Time Crimes does what only the best time travel stories manage. It follows its own logic completely, without ever cheating, and the result is a thriller that tightens like a vice from the first frame to the last. Ruthless, efficient, one of the finest genre films of the last 2 decades. And number 1 is coherence. 8 friends gather for a dinner party on the night a comet passes close to Earth. The power goes out. Strange things begin to happen in the neighborhood, and the group starts to realize slowly and then all at once that the comet may have done something to the reality around them. Something that cannot be undone by morning. Coherence was made for $50,000. Director James Ward Byerkit shot it over 5 nights with no screenplay. Only notes given to the actors each day, guiding them toward discoveries they made in the moment. What emerged is a film about identity, about whether the version of you that exists right now is any more valid than a version living out a slightly different night just a few streets away. It is the most unsettling film on this list, and it earns that entirely through ideas. No monsters, no explosions, just a dinner table and a question that gets underneath your skin and does not leave. All of that for free. 10 films covering every corner of what science fiction can actually be. Body horror, quiet drama, time paradoxes, kaiju metaphor, psychological dread, one-room philosophy. Every single one sitting in Tubi's library right now at no cost to you. If this saved you even 1 month of a subscription somewhere, then subscribing here costs you nothing, and it means you will not miss the next one. Because next up, we are talking about the streaming service people actively resist paying for that is quietly making some of the most ambitious science fiction on television right now. That video is already up. I will see you there.